Hello everybody and welcome to episode 5, is it, of Thom-Cast with me, Mayoorhan.
Me, George, and that is the two people right here, right now. It's been a busy few, I suppose, months now since our last episode, but we're back. Hello.
Yes, there's been this little thing called exam period in both the US and the UK, and it's finished for George and I, but it's still going on for our other co-host, Matt, which means this is the second episode we've had to leave him out. But he will be back for the next one. And so, wishing Matt Bacon the best of luck in his exam.
Yeah. But in the meantime, here we are. So because there's a lot of news to sift through, actually. But first, we have a guest, as has become regular on our show. And our guest today isn't exactly who you might expect. It's, well, he's not exactly famous for Thomas at all. He's actually famous for a really excellent series of railway videos known as Cross Lines on YouTube. So if you know Cross Lines, then you'll know it is Haydn Spencer or Half-Baked Hex 8. Hello, Haydn, and how are you?
Hello, I'm great, thanks, and it's awesome to be on Thom-Cast today.
It is, as I said, it's very awesome to have you.
Yeah, it's an honour to have anyone and everyone.
Yeah.
Well,
so
not at the same time, that would be quite disastrous.
So, Haydn, I think it is fair to, if you don't mind, just to mainly discuss about what I'd say you're best known for, which is Cross Lines.
And for those not in the know, Cross Lines, Basic Plot Synopsis, it's a series set on a fictional railway in whereabouts in England, Hayden?
Well, it's sort of left vague. So it's all fictional locations, but they're in a place mainly resembling Britain, but not necessarily in Britain.
Yes. And it's set on the Waterdown Railway with a whole motley crew of engines, and they have their own adventures, and it's very good. It's very good. It's different in all the best ways possible, and me and George seriously recommend it.
George especially so, because he's part of the cast.
We don't talk about that. So I suppose we should go back to the beginning, if you don't mind, and ask, how did you come up with Cross Lines, Haydn?
In the beginning, there was a god, and his name was the Rev W.
To rephrase, I mean, what sort of things inspired you for Cross Lines? Or was there any particular way it came to be?
Well, Cross Lines started out as a very Thomas-based thing in general. So, like, the original idea behind it was going to be an adaptation of Thomas and the Twins, believe it or not.
I thought it was going to be an adaptation of Cross Lines from that Railway Series book. Hey!
You would be right in thinking that, because that is where I got the name. But don't tell anyone, it's a secret. That's going to be broadcasted to the interwebs.
That will be our special Thom-Cast secret.
Yes, the contract will be sealed that way. So, yeah, basically it was very Thomasy, but then, like, I added in my own characters, sort of a mixture of characters that I'd created using, like, Ertl models and other models, and then eventually the characters outgrew the Thomas setting, so I thought, you know what, they're their own thing now. And so, like, for several years I started creating the world they're in, the characters they're in, their backstories, their histories, all that sort of thing. And then eventually I said to myself one day in 2012, I think it was, I was like, well, I have the trains, I have the model railway stuff, I could make things, and I did, and it seems to have gone down well. So, yeah.
And just for the record, this is with fan stuff in general, most stuff tends to work when you just wing it. Just saying that now. Like,
yes, to be fair, most of the scripts have been winged, as it were.
And look at where your series is now, which is 5 episodes in, and it's really good. Really good.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that its popularity has really quite taken off this year. I mean, at least that's how I see it, I think.
Oh, it definitely has, because, like, for the longest time, it was just me caring about these characters and writing these stories. And while it is really great to share it with people, it has definitely taken off. And so much so, Cross Lines now has its own SIF production page, which is a sort of dream of mine come true. Because way back when, I watched all the read-ups there, I watched all the parodies and all that sort of thing, and to actually be part of that sort of esteemed group is it's an honour.
Well, it's really an excellent series, and me and Mayoorhan, and really a sort of little fan base that you've built yourself. I think we're all looking forward to seeing what you create next with it. Well, I say that, I know what you're creating next. So.
Yeah, and do I. But the point is, everyone should be like that.
Yeah, it would be really to have like that sort of popularity. I mean, I am very much happy with the amount of people on Twitter or on DeviantArt or on SIF who support Crosslines, and even people who I've not really talked to beyond those groups. And yeah, it would be nice if that could go further, because I like the characters, I like writing for them, I care about them, people care about them, so if demand's there, I would like to continue it.
And I think what's really cool about it is the fact that it's very different from Thomas, but you can tell where the inspiration kicks in. And that's a very tricky balance to get right, but you've done it really well.
Definitely, thank you. And yeah, because as I was saying, it's all well and good that it was once Thomas, but it eventually had to sort of shed that skin to become its own thing. And
you could say they shed their noses.
Yes, you could say that there, and it's funny because none of the Crosslines characters have noses, apart from Benjamin.
Because trains don't need to smell. A revelation Haydn recently discovered.
And if they did smell, that would be terrible. And as they would be.
But I think Mayoorhan's point is very, very true. I think it is a really difficult balance to get right. But I think it's just filled with so many original ideas that it sort of does drift away from Thomas and becomes something very much its own, which I find really, really interesting. So props off to you. But yeah, really, really fantastic stuff. And all people listening, check out some of Haydn's stuff at Half-Baked Hex 8. That's all lowercase Half-Baked Hex 8 on YouTube. And if you like him, subscribe. Because Haydn, you're good. You're really good.
And this is not being a guest on episode 5 isn't Haydn's first interaction with Thom-Cast. He also very kindly, I'll add, created an animation of our episode 3 with Matthew, which was, I said Matthew. He doesn't like being called Matthew. He's gonna kill me now. But he created an animation for based on a clip from episode 3 involving George and his backman James.
It will go down in legends.
Legends, history, forever and ever and ever. But really, that was very, very... Felt honoured.
It was such a nice surprise, because you didn't even say you were going to do it, and then you did.
It just sort of was uploaded, and we were like, ha!
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Well, I had been listening to Thom-Cast from the first episode, and there is a lot of things in there that would be worth animating, and I was thinking to myself, I want to do something animated today. And then, my mind drifted back to Thom-Cast, and I was like, this is good, I want to do this. And I did.
And here we are now.
In
fact, Haydn's already got his tablet out and he's animating this episode as we speak.
Well, I think it's safe to say that there may be more things on the way, but we'll keep that under wraps for now. I'm allowed to say that, right? Yeah.
Just remember to tap your nose when you say it. It's a secret.
Yeah, but this isn't a video podcast. This is very much audio. We don't have the budget for video yet.
Okay. Right. Okay. I suppose if it's all good with you two, we'll move on to our section with our guests, which we call The Other Railway.
I just realised something. Haydn's series, Crosslines, is not set on Sodor. It's not set on the Northwestern Railway. It's set on another railway. You could say it's set on the other railway.
So let's call it that then.
I'm essentially being kicked out of the Thomas world into my own world. I'm going to be interacting with the natives. I will find out what makes the dawn tick and the Atlas's eyebrows.
Quick question I want to ask. Who's your favourite character from your series?
Oh, damn it, Mayoorhan, I can't choose. Clay is always really fun to voice, so I'll go with Clay. But Mr. Traverse is also really fun as the character because I can trust Daniel to ad-lib like crazy for him.
Okay.
Yes, so, now we banish Haydn to the other railway,
Yeah.
I was like, that scream. Ah.
Just as a quick intro for people who might not be in the know, the other railway is a thing we like to do with guests where we ask them, in theory, if they were sent to some sort of other railway or somewhere that wasn't as nice as normal life, I guess, what Thomas-related things they'd like to take
island
with them.
where only the diesels work.
A cerulean-coloured hell.
That's right, there. So,
Haydn.
the first category... The first category is you can take one episode of the classic series, which entails Series 1 to Series 7. So which episode would you take and for what reasons?
I think I would take the episode All at Sea, because it is a very nice episode, and I remember it fondly. You get to see a side of Duck that you never really would have under, like, an Audrey episode, since it's, like, Britain, David Mitton doing their own thing.
Yeah.
It makes the world feel bigger because there's this sort of horizon and beyond. So it's not just Sodor. There is a world out there that is left unexplored. Yeah. I really like the sequence with Duck running from the docks to Bertie. There's like a sense of urgency in that sort of musical sequence to go with it. It was really nice. And need I say the ending? The beautiful, beautiful ending.
Yeah.
It's the sky. It's the red sky. It always looks nice in Thomas.
I always think it's kind of like how Duck looks to Thomas and Percy and then just looks out. I quite like that. He's like, I'm with my best friends here, out looking at the sea and the sun. It's beautiful.
You'd never get friends like this on the Great Western.
That's probably why I'm happier here than on the Great Western. Oh.
And so, our next section is one non-classic episode, so that's Series 8 Plus, and you get extra points for choosing something from Series 8 to Series 16.
Then I get the extra points because I choose Thomas and the Fireworks display from Series 8. I find it's a very underrated episode, and given that I was introduced to Series 8 through the All Aboard the Steam Team DVD, which happened to be actually my first DVD ever, it was one of the first few episodes of Series 8 that I got exposed to, and while I did not really care for the sort of change and stuff that happened, so like, back when I was young enough to watch it, I thought to myself, everything's different, why is the camera moving like this, and why is Henry all afraid of coaches? I was that sort of child. Like, in retrospect, Fireworks Show was pretty nice, because there were consequences with like not being able to get to the station, and there was like a sense of tension with James stuck at the signal. There was like resourceful problem solving with the firework being let off as a signal. A very Audrey-esque dialogue. So like Thomas says, "Bother James," ooh. And yeah, I think it's like very underrated out of all of the episodes, and I'd extend that to a lot of Series 8 because while there are a few like hiccups with characterization stuff, in retrospect, they're not that bad, and they actually hold up all right.
It's sort of like people say that the Series 7 was the stepping stone from like sort of the good classic series to like the sort of the poorer modern series. But the way I see it is that there was a stone that tripped up Hit, and that stone was Series 18 because it was good. But it did trip them up and make them fall into Series 9. Now you have that visual metaphor.
Very poignant, Mayoorhan. Very poignant.
Okay. The next category. One Railway Series book. Now, I always find this is quite an interesting category. So which one would you take, Haydn?
I have thought long and hard about this on several occasions, but I think the book I would pick would be Really Useful Engines. Because you get like the three main sort of small engines, not including Toby, of course. You get like the same sort of group. I don't know what it is with them because I picked them for All at Sea and I'm picking them now. It's very sort of slice of life, and you get to see like each working life of the engines, and they all come together to solve like a problem at the end. Like the post train I believe, got like its like its first proper introduction in the Railway series books. You've got like the more actiony sort of Stop Thief. You've got Fish, which is a lot of fun if you like crashing trains. But then again, I was quite shocked when I like read the book because, well, first of all, I read it from like the edition where they cut up all the images. But second of all, like the description of Duck being smashed up had never really processed with me. So like back when I watched the episode in series 4, I was like, "Oh, Duck, he just landed on the trucks. Everything's fine." But like in reading the book, it was like Duck's funnel bent and his front was all busted up, and I'm like, "No, this can't happen.
This isn't right.
This isn't how it happened in the TV series."
The Railway series got it wrong. This is a poor adaptation. And
It lies.
And then Haydn got older and realised the truth.
I also like the Fat Controller in that one because he has a most marvellous mustache.
He does.
It may be a very small thing, but it is a wonderful thing.
No, he had a moustache in that. I'm looking at that now.
Yeah, I think he
Next
also
section.
had a bow tie, but yeah.
The next category, one song. So this isn't a piece of music, instrumental music. This is an actual song from the TV series.
Right. Well, I'm sort of torn between two, and that's Never Give Up or The Tale of the Brave Song. Both of which kind of have the same message, in a way. That you can sort of rely on people and stick-to-itiveness wins the day way and stuff. But I think out of the two of them, I think I'd pick Never Give Up because it is very upbeat. It's less melancholic than Tale of the Brave, but I think that's a good thing because you kind of need that sort of, yes, you can do this, don't give up, and stuff. It's the Sodor equivalent of Eye of the Tiger, I suppose.
I'm now imagining the engine doing 1, 2,
like that.
Eye of the Tiger. Like, it just plays in the radio at Knapford, and then they're like, yeah, we can do this. It's like,
What's a tiger? Says Percy.
I'm sure
yes.
there is a music video on YouTube of Eye of the Tiger with Thomas, and if I find one, I will link it in the video description. The next category is one Thomas movie.
Aha. Would you like to hear my clever one and then my actual one?
Go on then.
Right, well, my clever one is that I would take Misty Island Rescue. And I have a very clever explanation. Because
Right.
Misty Island Rescue is seen as the worst of the worst. It's seen as completely unsavable. And this is true. But because it's so bad, while I'm on the other railway, I will be inspired to do good. And I will sort of think, well, they've got one good thing. I wonder what would happen if I wrote it like this, and then, I don't know, maybe Crossline spin-off 85 would happen. Also, having something of such bad qualities would make everything else I take with me good, and even better.
The wee lad's
So
got a good point.
There's my clever clogs version, but in
Alright.
all actuality, I think I would take Blue Mountain Mystery. Because it is a very nice story. And even though it's sort of...
I take the Mountain Mystery.
Yeah, even
No,
though
you
it's...
take Thomas and the Magic Railroad. We decided this in episode 1.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Even though, like, Blue Mountain Mystery sort of dips into, like, crazy territory, let's say, when Thomas is like, put me on the lift, I need to talk to Luke, and stuff. Like, it kind of makes sense in, like, the context, since Thomas is definitely grasping at straws at that point. Like, he's got all the pieces together, the pieces have then just, like, snapped apart, and he's like, what do I do? The only thing I know how to do, crazy stuff, quick!
I think what really works about Blue Mountain Mystery, and dare I say it, is Sharon Miller's writing, because compared to Andrew Brennan manages to get a lot of the basic feel of the Railway series and sort of the whole, you know, railway accurate and better storytelling bit, right? But one thing Sharon Miller does do better than Andrew Brennan is the whole 3-act structure of a 60-minute movie. I haven't seen Lost
Yeah.
Treasure yet. That could prove me wrong. But her movies are, without a doubt, terrible. But the one thing they've got right is that they know how to do setup, they know how to have a problem, and they know how to solve it. They know how to do the whole 3-act structure really well, and they can properly build escalation. So when you combine her ability to create the basic story, and then Andrew Brenner's all technical know-how to edit that basic story, you get Blue Mountain Mystery, which I personally think is the best special.
Yeah.
Aside from The Adventure Begins.
That, and I think Luke is is like a very endearing character. Like, while it is cliche in a way that he's like got this dark and troubled past and he's all shy and he hides and stuff, I think like since we had a character like that in Thomas, it's sort of like helped bring out more sort of like depth. It also gave expansion to Victor.
Yeah,
and
Victor was an actual character in that.
And it brought Paxton into the forefront, and I'm all up for that, because otherwise he would have stayed generic Diesel-free, and I didn't want that, because Paxton has character, and he knows how to exist in the world.
Yeah, it was a very, very nice special, and very touching as well. It's not like properly emotional, but it just sort of made you go, ah.
It was a good send-off for Nitrogen, especially with
Yes.
like how much they managed to achieve.
I think with the way Ark's animation is fantastic, but I think people are becoming too dismissive of Nitrogen now, because
Yeah,
Blue Mountain Mystery was their last hurrah, and it really shows. I mean, I rewatched it the other day, and their directing is way better than what they did previously, and it's on par with like the current present-day Ark, with
Like
the
the
directing alone.
the shot with the leaves that pans down towards Thomas's branch line was beautiful. Let's just clear that up. That was good.
And the panning shot from when Rheneas drops the stone into the crusher and it sort of follows it down. And
Oh, yeah,
go on the
that-
journey with the stone until it reaches Thomas's truck. That is good. That is what CGI can be used for. And that is what it's being used for.
Amazing soundtrack as well, can I just say? That
yeah.
movie
Yeah.
has an amazing soundtrack. And that's weird saying that's about a Thomas movie.
Yeah. I think it's the only movie where after the soundtrack like sort of got released by people were, aside from the Adventure Games, people were really regularly using Blue Mountain Mystery soundtrack. I don't think that's happened with any other special.
It's kind of catchy as well, which I think always makes really good music.
Because Luke's theme is quite beautiful with the panpipes and
Yeah.
just how wistful it is.
Yeah, that's the word, wistful. It's Blue Mountain Mystery is nice.
It's really good. It's really, really good.
Whether or not Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure is going to surpass that, we've yet to see, but as of now, Blue Mountain Mystery is the best, with the exception of The Adventure Begins.
I feel like there's some early buzz about Legend of the Lost Treasure, though, being really, really good, actually.
Yeah, but we don't know till the 17th of July.
It's going to be interesting. So the next category is one piece of Thomas themed merchandise. So this leads to a whole... You could go for something very left field here. So what are you going to go for?
Technically, he could say another book, because that's technically merchandise.
That's clever, Mayoorhan.
No, it's not,
But-
because who wants 2 books?
Well, I could build a fort out of them, couldn't I? A
They're
very
always-
small, very pathetic fort. I don't think I'd keep dry.
I can now protect my foot. Only my right one.
I could use it as a shield from the people on the other railway who will try to steal what I've brought with me, which happens to be the Thomas torch. And it's a strange one. It's got a strange handle. The design's all weird. There's a sticker on the back saying, "I'm not afraid of the dark," says Thomas.
Oh, that's adorable.
And the torch itself has Thomas's face on the front, so when you press the button or the trigger, you get Thomas's face on the wall, and the wheels work. I will supply a picture if you need one.
Genuinely terrify people.
I could, and I
Like-
could also use it to summon Thomas to save me.
You know what, though? I think that really epitomises... I think that really epitomises kind of what Thomas merchandise is as a whole. Like, it's something so not in sync with the TV show, but it's just something that's so nostalgic, you know? And it kind of shows how Thomas was really everywhere. And
like
on
it
everything.
Yeah.
It protected me from nightmares when I was a wee chillin', so yeah.
I have an anecdote here. When I was 3, I had a toothbrush, and it had a little Thomas on the front, but the funnel broke off, so it looked terrifying. End of anecdote.
And so, the last
Yeah.
category for the other railway, and after which we'll probably let you come back to Sodor. It depends. One, this isn't physically possible like the other ones, but it's nice to think. One character from the show. Like, who would you physically have with you, even though you can't? Wait, who would you like?
I think I'd like Henry. Henry's my favourite, and I will say that even after Henry's been portrayed back and forth as this poor, pathetic character. And even through these days, I will love him. While I do think he needs to, like, change and develop and become what he was, I like any form of Henry. Whether he's sick and sad, whether he's very sort of snobbish, whether he's arrogant and sort of like, oh, I can beat you, James. Whether he's saving diesels, or being saved by a diesel, or being saved by Emily. I will remain faithful with Henry. That and his name kind of sounds like mine, so we'll have a lot to talk about. I can also use his nose as an umbrella when it rains. Of course, we'll be in a tunnel, just to be sure.
What are you, a man or a mouse? I'm an engine.
It's raining. A lot.
It's raining men. Look, there goes the fat controller.
Oh, good heavens.
Okay,
On that,
you've
Henry
completed the other railway, Hayden.
Yes, your trials and tribulations are
Wahoo!
over. Time to return to Sodor, and
Hi-ho, Henry, away!
more specifically the Thom-Cast Studios. Don't crash Henry into the wall.
Aww.
Got him back. He needs to take the
Okay.
flying kipper. Yes, news and stuff. Let's go.
Okay, so since the last episode, there's been a lot to go on. I mean, not everything we're going to discuss because, well, we've missed.
I can't remember that far back.
Although
I'll be
I suppose
honest.
special notes worth, just maybe worth mentioning quickly. There's not much to talk about it. That there is a new animation with Sam, the merchandise engine, which was quite nice.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful Sam with his
so
wonderful chiseled jaw.
He's such a stereotypical. It's not that he has an He's not like an engine with an American accent. He is American in all manner of existence.
Ha ha! I'm from America.
Howdy, Thomas.
How you doing, little blue? Hey, Thomas, you're very red, white, and blue, am I right? Can I paint some stars on you?
What's that? You have 50 engines on your island? That reminds me of the 50 beautiful American states. Oh, yeah.
Buffers, please. I don't need buffers.
And suddenly there was Henry's tunnel, and Sam realized he was too tall to fit through. But that was quite a cute little short, and I'm glad they mentioned America by name. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was going to make a segue there, but that doesn't work because the next piece of information, something that I personally am extremely excited about, is the announcement of a returning character, which is Daisy. What do you think, guys?
I like how she's not Boko, but is still not good looking. To put it bluntly.
Yeah, I'm glad they sort of reduced the amount of makeup on her, and like, yeah, it's if they ever do introduce Boko, which I don't really want them to, it's quite clear they're not going to have the same face mold thing for him. But yes, Daisy is going to be returning, and it's been confirmed not in Series 19, instead in Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure, where everyone's apparently returning.
Although, as far as I know, she won't be in Series 19, but Series 20 after that?
Yes, yes.
It's to do with, like, chronological order, I suppose, that
Yeah.
the specials always take place after the series.
Well, no, it's a bit confusing because it's to do with the release date and the actual chronology. They've sort of messed it up before, like Series 12 being released before The Great Discovery, and things like that. But I think now they're trying to sort of fix that, and which is quite nice of them.
Though do imagine, I can't remember where I read it from, but imagine Ryan and Daisy in Legend of the Lost Treasure getting into a fight. That would be beautiful.
But yeah, it's a neat little promo. It's a neat little promo. I like the fact that the character design is faithful yet different and looks good in CGI. And I'm really curious to see how she interacts with the other characters, because it's nice to have a different sort of character. There is no other character like Daisy, as far as off the top of my head I can think.
My favourite character is back, and I am happy. No, well, seriously, Daisy is such an entertaining character. I don't know if I could say she's particularly three-dimensional, but then again, I suppose a lot of the characters aren't. But she's just so entertaining. She's got such potential to be entertaining.
I do think that if you put Daisy against most of the other characters, you will get some good material. So like Daisy and Gordon, or Daisy and, Emily, maybe.
Yeah, and I think what works about her is that, like, she's got such a big ego and a big personality, and when you have two big personalities alongside each other, they clash. But because Daisy's got such a big personality, she would just clash with any other character, and it's great.
I want to see Daisy versus James. The fight we've all been waiting for.
So we're all pretty happy Daisy's back.
Yes.
And you should be able to see her then in Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure, which is out July 17th, did you say, Mary?
July 17th to the 31st in at least 350 UK cinemas, so it's likely to be in a cinema near you. The US DVD release date is September 8th, so for Americans, that's when the DVD will be released there. And the UK DVD release date is September 28th, which is 20 days later, but that's not a worry because we're getting it in cinemas. And that's cooler.
And the 28th is also my birthday, so if you're looking for a birthday present...
Just Haydn gets like hundreds and hundreds of copies of Legend of the Lost Treasure just plastered through his mailbox.
I will ruin the economy on them. I'll make the value soar by having all of them.
Just people at Entertainment. Guys, Legend of the Lost Treasure sales just rocketed up on the 28th, but then they shut straight down on the 29th. And I think another thing's to talk about Legend of the Lost Treasure, because I think in our absence the trailer was released as well as a few promotional images being released, so I think now's a good time as any to talk about those and our thoughts on them and how excited we are for the special.
Before that, it might just be worth mentioning, I suppose we've discussed Daisy's a bit of a spoiler, but this is... I'm pretty sure you could consider this quite heavy spoiler territory. So if you want to avoid this slight quick discussion, maybe go to the next timestamp in the video description. Because, oh my god, there's a cake with the 70th on!
Yeah, I know! It's a painting, and then the Arsenal engines are 3D CGI things on it, and it's so cool, and I want that
Thomas
to open.
got wrecked! What happened, Thomas? We thought you were really useful! How could you do this?
Also, for those who haven't noticed yet, that angle is literally a homage to Oliver Owns Up, when they hang Oliver in the exact same angle, the fact control is standing there.
And Duck is in the background just like, ooh boy, Thomas, you've messed up big time this time, haven't you? What are we gonna do with you, eh? What are we gonna do?
I can imagine Duck being a bit of an arsehole and going, so the Thomas way didn't work out for you then?
If this is the Thomas way,
is so much shinier. The image with Thomas next to the Arsdale engines is so cool. It looks really nice. But I want that as a poster somewhere. It's like really nice.
I think the Lollipop Guild look very nice in their CGI colours. Now that we've got like a proper shot of them, yes. Bert looks a bit ugh because of his nose and his eyebrows.
Forehead.
Yeah, his face has a little something going off with it.
But I think that's because in the Railway series, his face and Rex's face were really similar, so I think that's sort of differentiating them.
Yeah.
And for those complaining about their lack of detail, shut up!
I think they look really, really nice, actually.
What were the other pictures? I'm trying to remember now. Oh boy.
Was it one of Sailor John? Because Sailor John is pretty damn cool. I like how he's a sailor and not a captain or a pirate. He's just some random guy who got blown off.
Where's my
treasure?
Dynamite, eh? Huh, sounds Italian. Throw it at Thomas. I like how he brings like such a seemingly dark tone with him. I've yet to
love how he's
know,
voiced
but
like John Hurt, and John Hurt's like Morgan Freeman. He has an amazing voice.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be a highlight. Like Arsdale engines, they're wonderful and all, but when you have someone throwing dynamite and anchors at Thomas,
on a sailboat of all things, and outrunning Thomas at the same time,
and doing a weird dance with dynamite. I mean, best character probably. I think I've said this before, but the like Sailor John character could probably take on all the best characters from the last few years in a fight and win. So like he would punch out Hornby, he would like bite Marion or something. He would like utterly desolate the competition, which is quite scary thinking about it. He also has dynamite.
Yeah.
Have I mentioned the dynamite?
I will point out, Sailor John's character design is, I think, one of, if not the best character design for a person in the show ever, because he's just so distinctive and unique and
Yeah.
different.
Rugged.
Yeah.
He looks like he's just fallen out of some portal from like a.
It's like he's fallen out of Pirates of the Caribbean and landed in Thomas and Friends.
Yeah.
I won't be happy till there's a violent, gritty, dark fight between Sailor John and the Fat Controller on top of one of the coaches.
I can imagine Sailor John about to throw dynamite at Tomlinson, like, in a total rip-off of the Harry Potter scene, but it's fine, they've got a Harry Potter actor in it. It's the top of hat. So I just taps him on the shoulder, he's like, get you away from my engine. Bam! Hit, animate that now, I want that.
Or maybe on the top of the train and like their hair is whipping about in the wind. Well, not the Fat Controller's hair, obviously. And then like,
that just flies off.
Look out, get down. You can't fool me with that tunnel trick. Oh, Henry's tunnel in Ballyhoo. Know your roots.
But I do like how Marion, from what I can tell from the trailer, she's getting quite a notable role in the thing. She's appeared in a few shots where Sailor John and Skiff are sort of suspiciously going by, and she's the one Toad introduces to the Arsdale crew. Wait, no, Toad introduces her to the... Never mind.
I suppose, I mean, she's voiced by Olivia Colman, who's not a low-profile actress, so I suppose it's in their best intentions to keep her popular.
Yeah. Speaking of not a low-profile actor at all, Eddie Redmayne is Ryan.
My name is Ryan.
I like... I mean, it's only one scene, but I do like the delivery of the line. I'm looking forward to Ryan.
I like his eyebrows. They're quite fantastic. And I'm an eyebrow aficionado, it seems.
And I'm one of the few people that likes his purple livery.
Oh, the purple livery.
I think it looks really nice.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
People have been complaining that it's not GNR apple green. I'm like, they put GNR on the side tank.
I wonder, if you invert the image, would it turn green? Ooh. Try that out at home,
I'm
kids.
totally not doing that now.
I think it'd make a great Bachmann model, actually, or maybe even a Hornby model.
Yeah.
I'd really like that.
Yeah. And
And his coaches as well.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have...
Which are Annie and Clarabelle.
Dun, dun, dun.
Steal Thomas, stealing your gift.
And Skiff, who's just a boat on wheels. Quite literally.
Yeah.
He looks amazing. I don't care what you say.
He's quite ridiculous, but I do like it. And I love just everyone's reaction when Thomas just sort of side slams into him. It's just like,
Finally, sweet release from this painful existence as a boat.
some of the illustrations are suggesting that Skiff is kind of like Flynn, and he can unscrew from his bogey and sort of be a free boat.
Free boat.
Yeah.
Free Willy. Free Skiffy. I'm gonna make it, Thomas. I'm making it.
But it looks really good. It looks really good. Really exciting.
Yes, and I like the pirate focus actually making it more epic rather than a bit sort of there. Like, you have a pirate ship being discovered and a sailor, but who's practically a pirate, just sort of doing piratey things, such as throwing dynamite at steam trains.
Did we mention the dynamite viewers at home? There's a lot of dynamite.
But yes, and I think this is like one of the few Thomas trailers that's genuinely epic in the sense it's one of the few trailers where I went, I want to see this now. We need to address just how many characters are /appearing /returning
Yeah.
because we have Oliver, Alfie, the Pack character by the way, Oliver, Alfie, potentially Max and Monty, Donald, Douglas, Daisy, the Arsdale engines, Sailor John, Skiff. Right, there's a lot of characters in this, but for once I don't feel like it's going to detract from it. And I think, is the marketing for Sodors's Legend of the Lost Treasure the best any of the Thomas films have had? I think so. The marketing campaign's been really good for the special, and I'm genuine excitement here. And I think it's the first time I've had genuine excitement, not sort of, I'll wait till it's uploaded on Dailymotion. It's more sort of, I need to see this, and I need to see it now.
I like how most of the details about it are quite vague too. So like, the basics are, we know Thomas messes up twice. We know he finds a ship, and we know that there's going to be like a, where's my treasure, gimme, sort of.
And we also know that there's going to be dynamite in it. Did we mention the dynamite?
But like, we have literally no idea how it resolves, apart from maybe Thomas crashing into Skiff. But that could go anywhere, really.
And can I just say, for when it does come out in cinemas, UK residents, no spoilers on the internet, right? We must be nice.
Promise, guys. This time round, we need to do this.
Because if it is as good as what it's shaping up to be, we can't spoil this for anyone else. Because that's what, when you watch something for the first time without knowing what's going to happen, nothing beats that experience, and you don't want to ruin that for others.
I concur with that.
And
Let's move on, shall we?
yes, onto the recent season 19 episodes that were released on DVD.
The big news.
Whale of a Tale. And so, quickly getting out of the way, what's your favourite episode from the 5?
They're all made of, like, very good small moments. And, like, that sort of makes them gel into, like, one sort of memory. So, like, with Truth About Toby, even if you don't really like it, you have Toby being lifted up and him just going, "What? No! What are you doing?" And you have, like, the Fat Controller, like, mucking about in Henry Spot's Trouble. And you have Thomas doing the, "Hello, Hattie. I'm a different engine. I'm actually pulling the face while I'm doing this voice too." But I think my favourite would be Lost Property, because like it felt like it was a good balance between small moments and like a sort of overall plot. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm sort of leaning between Toad and the Whale and Lost Property, but more towards Toad and the Whale, because that made me grin more, and I just thought it was more charming. Because they're both fantastic stories in my opinion, but what puts Toad and the Whale above Lost Property is the fact that Lost Property is a story based around the railway, and there's plenty of those. But let's face it, I don't think we're gonna get a story like Toad and the Whale ever again. Like a story about a beach dwell. That's not normal, and it's done really nicely. And I like Toad's characterization in it. Oliver was a bit off, but I could live with it. And
yeah, it definitely has stakes. I like how Toad and the Whale has stakes.
And for those complaining about how whales like that aren't found in the British Ocean, can you go piss off, please?
Oh.
Seriously, that was a legitimate goof on the Wikia, and no, please, no.
I think I really enjoyed Who's Jeffrey as well. I thought that was really, really good.
It was really cringy, but in a good way.
Yeah. It had a really, really nice moral about kind of hiding from your fears, which I think was done more subtly than a lot of kind of, say, Sharon Miller episodes or other similar episodes. It was really nice.
And I love
and it was really entertaining as well.
It was very sort of, I think that's like the quickest setup for a Thomas story ever. He literally just runs into Brendan Dock, smashes into a few trucks, and it's like, chaos ensues. And I also like the sound effect of bouncing balls. That was quite amusing.
I like how the trucks have a sort of like, they're no longer the sort of hive mind voice. There's just like one truck who speaks for all of them. And he's just like, "We didn't do that. What are you looking at us?"
There's always like the front truck, and then the other trucks are like, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I like the trucks. They're quite fun.
Henry Spot's Trouble and The Truth About Toby are both very silly episodes, but they're still entertaining.
Yeah.
But I would say Henry Spot's Trouble is a tad, I prefer it over the other one, Truth About Toby.
Well, see, I liked both of them, but they're both penned by Davey Moore, who's normally my favourite writer, and I think he turns out with really, really creative ideas. And these are really creative too, but I didn't think they were quite up to scratch with what he normally writes, personally. I thought they were both a bit formulaic, or they didn't do an awful lot interesting or new with their concepts.
That said, I do really like the little scene at Kelsthorpe. Like, what was it, 45 seconds without anything verbal, and it's just beautiful. It kind of reminded me of the Short on the Sheet movie in some respects.
Yeah.
And just like the sort of relationship between the humans and the people and the engines, how Gordon's watching and he's like, "Yeah, that paint on those rails, that's a problem." And then it's like, "Wait, what? No, I don't want this."
And the painter's just like, "This is my cue to exit."
Well, if only I could do the lining like the guy in The Adventure Begins.
The Truth About Toby, I'll be honest, when I saw it was written by Davey Moore, and I saw the way they're setting up the episode, I thought it was going to be about Toby's side plates falling off and then discovering something within Toby as a sort of...
Oh, that would be interesting. Like some gold or something.
Lost Property?
Lost Property
Um,
was
so-
great.
oh. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed Lost Property. Sorry, yeah, Lost Property was good.
I
The
mean,
back controller getting coverage is always welcome, and it took until the second viewing for me to realise that he got a black eye from the first paddleball
and he
incident.
got it from the second one as well.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
the top him. Oh,
Just the paddleball
back
gag is like the
controller.
best. I like how they're taking away his dignity, but making him more of a sort of humble character at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, especially in Who's Jeffrey, when he's sort of giving the example of how he broke Lady Hat's
Yeah.
favorite mug, and I'm like, it's a clumsy song, but it's nice.
Can I just say as well? I just remembered, Henry Spots Trouble. Not to spoil it if people haven't seen it. The ending is exactly what I love about Davy Moore's writing. That was hilarious.
Though you
Like,
don't know if
not just like
Wickham
Thomas funny.
acted it.
That was genuinely hilarious. And props to the animation team as well. That was incredible.
Especially
I would be
Henry's reaction. Just how he's like, oh god, not another thing I have to worry about. I'm a professional warrior, I am.
But I think the Fat Controller bits, ever since, I feel like it's sort of ever since they got rid of the guy who did the US voices and got Keith
Oh.
Wickham as the guy who records the original lines, because they record the US stuff first and then animate the show according to that. And I think with Keith Wickham as the Fat Controller, he ad-libs and adds a lot more dialogue to it. And like Dan was saying last Thom-Cast episode, he like adds these little bits of dialogue that are really cool and just sort of makes the Fat Controller more of a character rather than a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, people are sort of like, oh, everyone looks up to the Fat Controller, he's some sort of almighty ruler, but that's why they make him look like the bull sometimes.
Alright, well, I suppose we've covered all 5 of them, I think.
Yep, that's all of them.
As it stands, I think a 6th episode's been actually aired, Wild Water Rescue, on...
Yes,
In
that
America,
was
I
aired
think.
somewhere on, not even a normal Thomas channel, that was just aired
Yeah.
randomly.
But we haven't seen it, can't comment on it. Sure, it's good.
Overall, as a start, I don't think they're putting their best foot forward with Series 19, but I will say that it's not bad.
Yeah, I'd say 3 episodes, middling to really good, 2 episodes, really good.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, next piece of news, which
Which is going to be
we
really
can gloss
short.
over. If you remember, going back a few episodes, I think it was episode 3, we were talking about how Hornby had announced their new range of Thomas and Friends, and more details have emerged on that. So Mayoorhan and Haydn, if you'd like to, I'll just walk away, and you two can just sort of rant.
Well, to be fair, I haven't really heard much about the newer announcements. It sounds more like old announcements dressed up as new, from what I've gathered.
Hey, but yeah, it seems to be just a re-release, and I think what they've done is they haven't made new products or such. I think they've had a slight restructuring of the way they manufacture the engines and sort of the way everything's put out, just to make it slightly cheaper. They did something similar with the railroad range, and I think the changes are going to be just simple, easier to manufacture stuff. Like, I think Gordon is now going to share parts with the Railroad Flying Scotsman, and then they'll just separate off just before painting, and that's how it's going to work from now on. I think it will just be slight updates, nothing more than that, and I'm under the impression that they're going to switch to loco drive now, because it's about damn time.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
thing. But aside from that, there's really been, as far as we can tell, there's nothing new. Maybe, very maybe they've got something up their sleeve, because all they've released so far are old pictures and prices, which are just slightly cheaper than what they were before. But everything has been sort of what it was before, and that's disappointing, I won't lie, but we can't expect too much now. Like, if Hornby announce anything from now on, I think everyone's going to take it with a grain of salt. I think we've learned.
But as the old saying goes, never judge a book by its cover. Who knows, they could surprise us all. Hornby's old, but they could surprise us all with an amazing exploit where they bring a train home. And
They release an Edward that actually looks like Edward.
Yeah.
Just going into row enthusiast mode for a second. There's a class of engine that Hornby do called which is the T9s, and that looks so much more like Edward.
Yeah.
So why is it just because it's like super detailed?
Yeah,
like it would be too expensive.
it would be too expensive to use. But they could very well easily use 2P, which also looks a lot like Edward.
Yeah. It's weird. It's really weird how they've done it, but a lot of the designs are quite old. So
Yeah.
it's a shame they haven't taken the opportunity to redesign it. I'd imagine the Hornby Thomas range is quite popular, but I suppose,
Yeah.
evidently not. But I don't know. I feel like every Hornby collector has a Hornby Thomas in their collection somewhere. So, but that's basically that, I guess. Okay. So I suppose, well, shall we go on to our topic for this episode?
Oh yeah, sort of. Okay, I think right now I will stress we are walking into a minefield here, but this is our topic, and we're going to be discussing what makes a good fan production.
This will be fun,
Now,
guys.
we're talking about this because Haydn obviously has started up his fan series, and it's just to express nothing we say here is cement, concrete, whatever is strong. This is just our own honest opinions.
And we're allowed to make jokes. Don't be offended by a
More
joke.
to be advising. And Haydn, perhaps you'd like to start us off, because when we say fan production, this isn't necessarily a Thomas thing. This is for people who want to branch away from Thomas but still perhaps keep a railway-oriented series. So, Haydn, what did you find to be the most difficult challenge, would you say, or a difficult challenge of making a fan series?
I feel like that the most difficult thing is to make it stand out. So, like, you can look left, right, and centre, and you can see Thomas stories everywhere, practically. So, you kind of need to come up with something that makes yours stand out. So, with Cross Lines, it's essentially the setting's different, the characters don't look like Thomas characters, and just that general atmosphere of different.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is to obviously decide on your tone. And I think what's quite consistent throughout the community is a lot of people who enjoy doing episodes and whatnot, or series that are quite dark in tone, perhaps.
Yes, that I would sort of advise against that in some respects, because these characters, I'm sure many people will agree, have come to symbolise like icons of childhood and stuff, and doing dark and edgy things doesn't always work, and it always does come off as a bit jarring.
I think it would work if it was more self-aware.
Yeah,
You need it's the balance of comedy, and
I mean, it's the idea that really dark stories can work. It's just that you have to strike a good enough balance, because you have to remember that the real world is about as dark as it gets, but there's no one in the real world that doesn't know what a joke is. And if you're going to do something dark, you have to remember that your characters as well should also know what a joke is.
because if I may relate this sort of idea to Cross Lines, I think Nightmares was probably the darkest episode that I've done, and that's saying something out of the 5 I've done. But like, since I take it into the scrapyard and sort of go into more of the characters' troubled sort of pasts, I sort of tried to keep a balance between like having more like typically comic relief bits in there, I
Having
guess.
a crane crash into a shed.
Yeah, or like even towards the end of it, where like there's a scene. Well, let's not spoil it, but for the viewers at home who haven't seen Cross Lines, but like there is like a note left which sort of symbolises the change back from darkness, like we're coming out of there and going back to more light things. Because I feel I couldn't really ever accomplish like dark and gritty to the total degree. I don't think I could manage like fully going into darkness, as it were. You always have to have a light.
I think one point to make is, obviously, if you're doing a series about railways and it's got trains and faces, obviously it's going to be compared to Thomas the Tank Engine. So it is a case of finding your own ground. But what I think is most useful, and
Really?
not to say I've ever really done one, but I feel what is useful with these sort of things is to have inspiration outside of Thomas as well, like external sources. Like, surround yourself with, like, one thing I always hear with any source of, like, if you're trying to make media, is read. Do loads of reading.
Yeah.
Reading,
Because you'll
watching,
just pick up things that will inspire. Yeah.
I think
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether you read,
Watching
whether
too.
you watch, or whatever, whether you listen. It's more about the variety you have. And
Yes.
the bigger the variety, the better your writing will naturally become. And there are series who focus. There are fan series out there who just focus entirely on the Rail series, and that's their entire inspiration. And that's not inherently
Yeah.
bad, but it does. You can
Yeah,
tell
you-
it's just not.
You
it's,
do need to bring in like new blood into
Yeah.
the idea pool.
And at
So,
that
like-
point, it stops becoming your own thing and more just another railway series, which isn't bad, but surely it's nicer to have your own stamp on things, even if it is
Yeah.
based off Thomas.
So, like, even watch bad things, watch bad movies, and see what they did right and wrong, and inspire yourself from that. Like, watch good things, watch very highly recommended things, and see if you agree.
Watch anything and everything.
Find the 8 words in the word search. Come on, kids, you can do it. So, like a lot of inspiration for like design aspects and story content for me for Crosslines came from like animes and like more westerny cartoons, things like Transformers, I guess. Like not the big movies, but like the smaller, more contained cartoons. And just like really sort of immerse yourself in media if you want to like create something big and new, I'd say.
And it's also the fact that not all of us have the same budgets or the same software to work with. And I think what people should be able to understand is that it's about working with what you have, not against it. And I realized that ages and ages ago when I was planning a script for something, I won't go into depth, but involved people, and people were basically, it was a story based on railroad, but people were a big part of the story. And it got to the point where I was like, I can't physically do this. I mean, it's good and I would like to, but I can't physically do this. And it's more about tailoring your script to your production. So, for example, Trainz people, those who have written a script it's a really good script, but they just don't have the ability to, say, do that script justice, such as, I don't know, like showing an engine being taken apart or having human interaction. The show can do it because it has a budget and animation, but we necessarily can't. And it's about working with that, not against that, because when you work with it, you can create something better.
Despite everything we're saying, don't get thrown off by any sort of doubts. Go into it, because it's so much better to have made stuff and then improve than to just keep thinking about how you're going to make one thing. The more experience you have, the better what you make will become. And I find this all the time, because I never get to write stuff. I always think I'm going to write something and then I don't. But I know that if I write stuff, then I will start getting better at writing other stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's also about the fact that if you want to start making something and you want to make a name for yourself in the community, don't try planning something big. Try lots of little things. Find out where your strengths are. Find your weaknesses. Work out a style for yourself that no one else has. And surprisingly, even now when people are like, oh, but everyone's come up with every possible idea, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, there's nothing like George's videos out there, and have his own unique style. Haydn has crossed lines. I mean, no one's got that. And even now, when people are saying, no, but everyone's done every single idea possible, no, they haven't. You have the potential to do whatever you want, however you want. You just have to try it.
I feel like people in the fandom have barely scratched the surface, to be honest.
I mean, for me, it feels like there's two extremes. There's too far away from the source material, Thomas and Friends, and then there's too close to it. And then you get the occasional sprinkling of people who sort of fab the balance of their own stuff and the Thomas stuff.
It's a weird balance, because absolutely go into it, experiment and try and find out what works, but don't be afraid to take criticism as well.
Don't
a lot of people
make sure you don't really have an ego, I'd say. Like, people will sort of make fun of you, I'd say. And like you've got to be aware of that. And like, don't respond to them in a way that would make that you would sort of damage yourself with, I'd say. I'm not quite sure what I mean by that, but I think the general idea is just like, don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it, and like
that's the good thing about the fandom. There's always someone right round the corner. Like, it's so easy to just like become friends with people in the community, and it's great. But what is important? You've got to distinguish between what is someone leaving a troll comment saying this sucks, and then someone saying.
And I think this goes both ways, because as much as you need to accept criticism, you also need to give criticism as well. Because, again, not mentioning names here, but I think there have been a number of people in the community who have gotten popular and people have praised their work, but they sort of, because so many people praise their work, they don't improve with what they could do, if that makes sense. And I think, as much as, even if you're the biggest fan of someone's work, if you love their stuff, don't be afraid to say that, oh, this one wasn't that good, or you need to change this, or just be honest with yourself, because even if you do absolutely love someone else's work, there's always a way they can improve, and you should never be afraid to say that. Always just speak your mind. Just don't. It only goes into when you go overboard and start insulting them. That's not good. But just be civil, be honest, give criticism, take criticism. We can all be better at what we do.
And one sort of final thing I'd say, please don't over-exposit things. Like, we have I know it may be for, like, new people coming into them, but don't go into great detail explaining who these characters are. We can get the gist of that through, like, dialogue and action.
The story matters most.
But I think you need to have a flow. Don't stop for exposition, because I think one thing that people do, especially in the Thomas community, more so than any other community, because the show has had a narrator, and fans sort of use the narrator as a easy way of writing, and sort of the narrator is utilized in I don't want to say the wrong way because that sounds harsh, but is utilized in a way that sort of damages the flow of the story.
Yeah.
And that's sort of why I've gone against using narrators as much as possible myself, because I find it very hard to get the balance right. But if you can, that's fantastic. You've got something I don't. But you have to remember that. Don't ever stop the story for exposition. Don't put a full stop. Always have something going on.
Show don't tell.
Yes.
Show don't tell. If you can demonstrate something to the audience in the visual medium, then do it instead of getting a narrator to explain stuff, because that will mean so much more, and that will in terms of the audience, that will go deeper, I suppose.
Because if you rely on the narrator too much, then you're literally saying there's no reason for your production to be a visual production. It may as well just be an audio thing, kind of like Thom-Cast. But
we should have a narrator.
Said George.
But yeah, I mean, I guess we should wrap up this because we are rambling a little bit, but I think some of the points are quite fair.
Yeah.
So maybe to summarise, don't be afraid to take criticism, but don't be afraid to give it. Surround yourself with media and kind of think about why things work and why they don't. Try not to stay too. Yeah, that's true. Try not to stay too close to Thomas. Don't be afraid to take inspirations from other sources.
And don't be afraid to you shouldn't be afraid to do what you want, but just remember that it has to go to a point where you see what you're making still has to be Thomas, in the sense that it's identifiably Thomas in its feel, not in its technicalities. You don't need to know Rule 55. You need to understand why Thomas is cheeky and why that works for him as a character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay. On that note,
brilliant. I guess it's time to move on to Activity Station, a section of the show where we can give some shout-outs to any forms of media, videos, audios, websites that we'd just like to give a shout-out to because they've been doing some good work. So the first thing I'd like to shout out, which was shouted out to me by Haydn, is SIS Extended Railway Series is now on SoundCloud, available to listen to, and I think download as well. Can you download on SoundCloud?
Yeah, you can. You can if the uploader lets you.
But yeah, check them out because they are really well done, and they are.
It's a nice album artwork as well. Just looking at it.
Yeah.
Another shout out is to this new channel which popped up known as the Railway Spoof, and he has his own parody series called the Railway Spoof series, and it's 4 episodes in. It's very sort of adult and it's very sort of
low tech, I'd say.
Low tech, deliberately low tech, very entertaining, quite silly. Also, the humor is quite British, so if you're from other regions, you may not quite get it, but it is still pretty funny. And
I would also like to shout out, and I know this is going to be a very vague shout out, to everyone who did something for the 70th anniversary. So, like, you can probably find most of the videos by typing in 70th anniversary video, but there are quite a lot of things that came out on, like,
speaking
the day of the anniversary.
70th anniversary videos that are really good, Haydn also uploaded a short on that day, so I recommend you check it out, as well as checking out Crosslines.
My one Thomas thing that I'm proud of.
It's got minis in it and everything. You integrated the minis into a story. That's why you're a legend.
Wonderful.
And
I think that's pretty much it. I guess time to wrap up the show, I suppose. Thank you very, very much for coming on, Haydn, this lazy afternoon. Once again, to reiterate, all lowercase, search on YouTube, Half-Baked Hex 8, and check out Haydn's Crossline series. If you like, subscribe. It will really be nice for Haydn. And,
or, if you're lazy, you could just click the link in the description that George will probably put in there for Haydn's channel.
Yes, or check out his Sodor Island forums page just to read a little bit about a little bit more about the Crossline series, if that interests you.
Also, you can go to the Sodor Island forums and check out his parodies, which are quite clever and fun.
They are very funny. So, Haydn, thank you very, very much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
The feeling's been mutual.
If you'd like to contact us, you can find us by email at thomcast1@gmail.com, all lowercase, and you can find us on Twitter at Thom-Cast1. If you'd like to send a question for the next show, you can leave it in the YouTube comments section, or send us a tweet on Twitter with the hashtag Thomcast. Thank you very, very much for listening, and from me, Mayoorhan and Haydn,
Goodbye.
Good night, everybody.
Goodbye.